Something shocking just happened yesterday inside the Trump administration, and it involves national security, Iran, and a sudden resignation that has Washington buzzing. In this video, you're going to see what really happened when Joe Kent abruptly stepped down as director of the National Counterterrorism Center, and why President Trump says the resignation may actually be good news for the country. And what we'll learn here is that the story gets even stranger when Kent's past statements about Iran suddenly come back to haunt him. However, the real twist may be what Trump officials say Kent was wrong about all along. Let's get into it. All right, guys, welcome back to the channel. So if you like our videos and you haven't done so already, you should become a subscriber to the channel. You can hit the notification bell and smack that like button because it helps us get our message out to more people, and you'll be notified every time we put out a new video. Thank you. All right. So something very strange happened inside national security world yesterday. Joe Kent, the director of the National Counterterrorism Center, suddenly resigned. And the reason he gave raised more eyebrows than a Hollywood Botox convention. Kent claimed in his resignation letter that he tweeted on social media that Iran did not pose an imminent threat to the United States. Now, think about that for a second. The guy in charge of counterterrorism just told the country that Iran, the world's leading state sponsor of terrorism, wasn't really a problem. And that's where the story gets really interesting. Because President Trump read Kent's statement and came to a very different conclusion. And what he said next pretty much tells you everything you need to know about how this situation unfolded. During a bilateral meeting in the Oval Office with the Irish Prime Minister, Micheál Martin, Trump was asked about Kent's resignation. Trump didn't exactly sound heartbroken. In fact, he sounded pretty relieved. He said, "I read what he wrote. I always believed he seemed like a decent person, but I also believed he was weak when it came to security issues, very weak. I did not know him very well." Now, that's not Trump trashing the man, actually. He's giving his assessment. We know that Trump is the king of trashing people, but it sounded like he said he believed that he was a decent person, but he thought he was weak on security, which is fine. All right. So that's not exactly a glowing performance review, but it's also not, a blistering review. Trump went even further, though. He said, when I read that he said Iran was not a threat, it became obvious to me that it is a good thing he is no longer in that role. Iran was a threat. Countries around the world understood that Iran was dangerous. The real question was whether leaders were willing to confront it. Now, in other words, Trump basically said what a lot of people in the national security community have been saying for years. Iran is not Switzerland. Iran is not Canada. It's not some peaceful little country minding its own business. It is widely considered the leading state sponsor of terrorism on the planet Earth. Hamas and the Houthis are proxies of Iran, but Hezbollah is actually a part of Iran's government. When the leader of Hezbollah was killed, the new leader was appointed in Tehran. And the drama didn't stop there, because shortly after Kent posted his resignation on X, something happened that made the whole story look even stranger. Independent journalist Laura Loomer dug up an old tweet from Kent himself. And the tweet came out, guys, that was just 41 days before the 2024 election. And in that tweet, Kent warned that Iran had been trying to kill President Trump since 2020. Now let that sink in. 2 years ago, Kent was publicly warning that Iran posed a serious danger to the United States and even to Trump personally. But now suddenly Iran poses no threat? They were like a month away from getting nukes. So naturally, people started asking the obvious question, what exactly changed? And that's when the White House stepped in. Press Secretary Karoline Leavitt didn't mince words. She said, quote, "This is the same false claim that Democrats and some in the liberal media have been repeating over and over. As President Trump has clearly and explicitly stated, he had strong and compelling evidence that Iran was going to attack the United States first." Now, guys, we aren't privy to that information. Now, I hold my tongue as to saying whether it exists or not until later on when he may release it. But he's not going to give that information out right now in the middle of a war. She said Kent's resignation letter contained what she described as several inaccurate claims, the biggest one being his statement that Iran did not pose an imminent danger. Levitt pointed out that the president had already seen strong intelligence indicating Iran was preparing a strike on the United States. According to her, that information came from numerous intelligence sources. And she made something very clear. The president does not send American forces into military conflict without serious intelligence backing the decision. Guys, we're talking about a man who ran a campaign saying no prolonged wars. I mean, as of today, I think we're 19 days in, and we already have people that are bitching and griping that it's a long war. He said no wars. Are you kidding me? Levitt also reminded everyone of something that the media often forgets. Iran has openly taken responsibility for killing Americans and attacking U.S. interests for decades. I think they've killed over 1,000 Americans. She said the Iranian regime has threatened the United States repeatedly, including during events leading up to Operation Epic Fury. And she added another important point. Iran has been rapidly expanding its short-range ballistic missile systems. These missile programs, combined with its naval forces, were designed to create a strategic shield. In other words, Iran was building the ability to threaten other nations while making retaliation much harder. And that shield would give Iran time to continue pursuing something even more dangerous, a nuclear weapon. Levitt also rejected Kent's suggestion that Israel somehow pressured the United States into the conflict. She called that claim ridiculous and offensive. I've had friends of mine that are saying the same nonsense. Guys, who were the ones that handled the Houthis? Was it us or, it was Israel. Who are the ones that are bombing the living hell out of Hezbollah? Was that the United States? No, that was Israel too. Who are the ones that went after Hamas? Ever hear of Gaza? Oh, that's right. That was the Israelis as well. Who were the ones that took out the AA battery so that our planes could get in there and bomb the living hell out of Iran? That's right. That was the Israelis. And she reminded reporters that Trump has said for decades that Iran must never obtain a nuclear weapon. We have video that goes back to 1980 where he said that. And he's always been consistent. Not sometimes, not maybe. He's never changed his position on that. Then the reaction started pouring in from across Republican leadership. House Speaker Mike Johnson said he wasn't sure where Kent was getting his information, but he suggested Kent clearly hadn't been present for some of the intelligence briefings.
We all understood there was clearly an imminent threat, that Iran was very close to the enrichment of nuclear capability, and they were building missiles at a pace that no one in the region could keep up with. They were far outpacing our allies and friends and us in our defense capability, because we had personnel, installations, members of the armed services and civilians in the region. Iran was building up ballistic missiles at such a rapid pace, and we knew that their plan was to fire them upon Americans.
So what got to Kent? Was it the anti-Jew thing that's going on throughout the country right now, where Israel was blamed for everything, including humidity? Is that where, did Kent cave to that? Because he certainly had something different to say back in 2024. Johnson said the administration had received highly detailed intelligence showing the situation with Iran was extremely serious. Now, how would Mike Johnson know? Well, he's the Speaker of the House. He has clearance to see all those details. And see, there was another problem for Joe Kent. Around Washington, D.C., he was a known leaker. He leaked significant intelligence to the media and to other political people, and everyone knew it. Now, I don't want to get into the weeds with it and say that he leaked classified information or anything like that, because I don't know. But I do know that he was known for leaking intelligence, and he was known throughout D.C. to do that. So how can he be the director of the Counterterrorism Center when he's a known leaker? It was also known that he was probably going to be removed or fired from his post because of his leaking problem. So what I believe is that he did this as a hit piece against Trump and the administration to get even with him and the administration for him about to lose his position. I mean, think about it. The title, Director of Counterterrorism. I mean, that's a really cool title to have in the administration, right? And now you know that you're about to be removed because of something that you did. So he's going to lose all that prestige, you know, the really cool title. And so he did a hit piece. His wife works for a website that is pro-Iran. Now, that doesn't mean anything, but it could. So I would have to question his motivations, because instead of quietly issuing his letter of resignation to the president, he did it publicly on the world's town square, X.com. And as people have said, he wasn't in a lot of the intelligence briefings on Iran because he wasn't supposed to be there. He wasn't a top-ranking person in the administration. That cool title didn't entitle him to be in certain classified meetings where intelligence was shared. So I think that he did this as a hit job against the administration because he knew that he was going to be fired. Trump advisor Taylor Budowich took even harsher tones. He called Kent an egomaniac who had spent his time trying to weaken the chain of command and undermine the president. So now we hear that. We didn't hear that from the press, and they'll do everything they can to weaken that statement. Budowich said Kent's resignation probably wasn't some grand act of principle. Instead, he suggested Kent was trying to grab attention before getting fired. Now, guys, this is not the first time that people inside a Trump administration were doing things to try to harm him, to kill his reputation, to make sure that he wasn't successful. We've lived through many attacks like that from the inside. And if that's true, the story might not be over yet. Senator Lindsey Graham also chimed in. I don't like Graham for a lot of reasons, but his reaction was blunt. He said Kent leaving the National Counterterrorism Center could not have come at a better time. Now, here's the bigger point in all of this. When you're dealing with national security and nuclear weapons, weakness is not a strategy. Guys, it's a liability. And whether Kent intended it or not, his resignation letter created serious questions about judgment inside one of the most sensitive intelligence roles in the government. Trump clearly believes the country's better off with someone stronger in that position. And based on the reaction from the administration, it's safe to say they're not losing any sleep over Kent's departure. The bigger lesson here is simple, guys. When it comes to national security, clarity matters and leadership matters even more. This guy decided to do this in the middle of a war, and he brought no evidence whatsoever to back his claims. Did you guys read any evidence in the letter? I didn't. I don't know about you, but that sounds pretty political to me. Trump and his team believe Iran is a real threat, and they are acting on intelligence that they say backs that up. Now, think about it. If he was in the counterterrorism unit and he was the director of it, he was in those security meetings where they talked about all the evidence that came up that Iran was a serious threat. He didn't say anything. He didn't hold up his hand and go, wait a minute. He said none of it. If Kent's resignation clears the way for stronger leadership on counterterrorism, then for the administration, it may not be a crisis at all. It may actually be the start of a more unified national security strategy. But see, the problem is the lefties, mainstream media, same thing. They're all going to pounce on this as if it's something important. They're not going to see the nuances of the story. They're not going to know that this guy was weak on national security. They're not going to realize, they're not going to mention that he said nothing during the intelligence briefings, nothing at all. All right, so tell me what you think about this in the comments below. I love hearing from you guys. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one.